Okay, today, boys and girls, is lesson 1-12. Today is exploration stations. So there'll be 3 different stations set up in the room that we will be exploring. If you are working from home, we'll just have to be a little creative with kind of changing up the lesson a little bit. Today we're going to be exploring masses, equal groups, and equal shares. All right, I'm going to skip the warm-up here for today. I want you to look at this right here. This right here is called a pan balance. What do you think a pan balance would be used for? How do you think this works? So, you know, when you balance something, that means that it's going to be equal on both sides, right? So if this pan is balanced, that means that whatever's in this side is the same weight as whatever is on this side. This is a tool for measuring the weight or to measure the mass of something. Now, you know, if you were to put something in this side, then the scale would tip over, wouldn't it? This side would kind of go down until you put the same amount or the same weight in this side, and then our scale would balance. Okay, so this is called a balance scale or a pan balance. Now, when you start to use these scales, if you're using them in class, I'm going to show you how we do something called zero out the balance to make sure that before you start using it to measure, that the scale is balanced out to start. You don't want the scale to start out tipped over. You want to make sure that the scale is called zeroed out. Now, we'll be using this scale to measure mass. Let's see here. I think I skipped a page. Nope, I didn't skip a page. Okay, so we'll be using this balance scale to measure the weight, to measure the mass of something. And we'll be using something called masses or weights. Now, in class, they look something like this. And sometimes in our classroom, we have something like this. It's kind of like if you have weights at home, like if you have some dumbbells or some barbells like this lady here is holding, each one is a different weight or has a different mass. So with these little weights right here, this might be 1 gram, and maybe this one might be 2 grams. And this one might be 5 grams, and maybe one is 10 grams. And so each one of these little weights or little masses will have a different weight on it, and they'll be labeled. Sometimes teachers will have weights that look like this, and each different block is a different mass. Now, you're going to hear us say the word gram a lot in this lesson, and gram is just a unit of measurement. 1 gram is about the weight of like a large paper clip. Okay, so if you hold a large paper clip in your hand, that doesn't weigh very much, does it? That paper clip is about the same as 1 gram. Okay, so when we're doing some measuring in class, we might put an object in here. Let's say that we might put a glue stick in. Okay, that's my glue stick there, right there. Now, when we put the glue stick in one side of the pan balance, what's going to happen? It's going to tip over, isn't it? So then we're going to have to add some weights or some masses into this side, and once this pan balance equals out or it balances back again, then we know that we have the weight of that object. So let's say that I put a little 1 gram weight in there, and maybe I put a 5 gram weight in there, and maybe I put a 10 gram weight in there. And finally, when I have all those weights in there, the scale balances out. That is, now I know how much that weighs. So as soon as the scale balances out, I add up all of my weights in here. So I had 1 plus 5 plus 10, and so that would be 16 grams. Okay, so that's how this scale works. So if you're in class, you're going to get a chance to explore and experiment with that a little bit. We'll have some objects that we will put in one side of the pan balance, and then we'll put weights in the other side, and then we'll add up the weights to see the total. Okay, so that's what this explains here about that. Okay. And so this in your workbook, if you're working from home, you'll see a page in your workbook that looks like this, and that's just where we're going to kind of draw out. So if I had my glue stick, I would write glue stick on one side, and then this is where I would show my weights on the other side. Okay, but I know that if you're working from home, that might be a little tricky, and I think I have some online activities that I can send to you to kind of experiment with it online. All right, the next activity is called the equal shares activity. And in this activity, you do have a workbook page. And so I believe your workbook page, not sure what this page is here. Let me pause this for a second. All right, this is workbook page 26, and you'll also need, if you're in class, I can provide this for you, but if you're not in class, you need some circles cut out. And so you could just cut out some circles from a piece of paper at home, or even maybe just draw the circles on here. And you're just going to be exploring with this a little bit, okay? So it says you're sharing 3 pancakes equally among 6 friends or 6 people. Draw a picture to show part of the 3 pancakes that each person gets. And then the next one is you're sharing 3 pancakes among 4 people. So this is, we just want you in class to be exploring a little bit on different ways that you can share these pancakes. So you'll be able to cut up the circles any way that you want, or you'll be able to just kind of draw them and cut them up. So I want you to experiment with that a little bit. And then the other activity that we're going to be working on in class is creating equal groups. And this one here, there's nothing in your workbook to do on this one. This is just a little game that we're going to be playing. And for this game, you're going to need a 6-sided die. So that just means, you know, the dice with the dots on them. And it says you're going to need 36 counters. So you could use anything at home. Maybe you could use 36 Cheerios or 36 M&Ms or 36 Smarties, you know, just 36 pennies, something that you have 36 of. And then 6 quarter sheets of paper, it says. So all you need to do is get out a piece of paper and maybe cut it into 6 pieces, or use some index cards. Okay. Now when you're playing this game, here's how this game works. You're going to roll the die twice. Okay, so, well, let me go to number 1. It says you're going to use the quarter sheets of papers as your bird's nests and the counters as your eggs. Okay, so you can see this picture. They're using their little pieces of paper as bird's nests and their counters as the eggs. And what you're going to do is you're going to roll your die twice. The first roll tells how many nests to use. So let's say I roll my dice and I roll a 3. Okay, I'm going to get out 3 of my little pieces of paper and lay those out. Those are my 3 nests. Now I'm going to roll my dice again, and let's say this time I roll a 2. Well, I'm going to put 2 counters on each nest. All right, so then you set up your nests and your eggs for the numbers that you rolled, and then you're going to figure out how many eggs there are in all. So altogether, I have 6 eggs, and you're going to write a number model to show what that represents. So remember when we were doing equal groups number models the other day, I have 3 groups of 2 equals 6. So this is just going to practice with your equal groups and writing those number models. Okay, so you'll need dice, counters, and quarter sheets of paper, and roll the dice. That figures out how many pieces of paper you need or how many nests. Roll the dice again. That's going to tell you how many eggs or how many counters are on each one. Then you're going to figure out the total of eggs and write a number model to go along with it. Okay, so boys and girls, that is what we are doing in class today for lesson 1-12. We're going to be working with weights and pan balances. We are going to be working with exploring some equal shares, seeing how we can split up pancakes between 3 people and 4 people, and then practicing with our equal groups. So if you're working at home, just try your best to do some of these activities at home, just to the best of your ability. All right, that is it for lesson 1-12.